The night settles heavy over the town of Fairview, a forgotten speck of Midwest farmland with no more than 3,000 people to its name. Out here, silence isn't absent-side's presence. It's the hum of crickets in tall grass, the low groan of a weathered barn, the faint whisper of wind across the cornfields, and on this night, silence stretches across the countryside like a warning. Jack Keller sits alone at his kitchen table, the dim light of a single bulb painting his scarred face in amber tones. The farmhouse creaks with the kind of wear only decades can give. A coffee mug rests in his hands, long since gone cold, but he isn't drinking. His eyes, pale and unblinking, study the wood grain beneath his fingers as if seeing something else entirely. Afghanistan dust, the steel of a rifle stock pressed against his cheek. The memory of men who never came home. Neighbors call him the quiet one, the recluse on the edge of town. To them, he's just another broken veteran trying to drown his ghosts in solitude. They don't know the precision buried in his bones. They don't know that every creak in this house has already been mapped in his head, every window measured 4 lines of sight, every approach angle accounted for. Years in the Ranger Regiment do that to a man. You don't unlearn it, you just bury it, until the ground shakes again. For weeks, the county has been rattled, break-ins, families tied up in their own homes, safe boxers emptied, jewelry stolen. Mason Briggs and his brother Tyler, they've been hunting soft targets, old folks, isolated farms, easy pickings. Fairview Sheriff's Department is spread thin, underfunded, too many miles of dirt road to cover. Word is these guys don't care who's inside. If someone resists, things turn ugly fast. Jack hears about it only in passing. He doesn't own a TV. He doesn't scroll through a phone like the rest of town. But Sarah, his neighbor to farm down, dropped by with a casserole last week, her way of checking in without making it obvious. She mentioned the burglaries, her voice dropping when she admitted she was scared. Jack gave a quiet nod, nothing more. He didn't promise to help. Didn't promise anything, but inside, something stirred. The night deepens. The old clock on the wall ticks past midnight. Jack rises, rinses the untouched coffee, and moves to the window. Outside, the fields stretch wide under a half moon. His land ends at a split-rail fence. Beyond it, a dirt road that curls out toward town. To anyone else, the view is emptiness. To Jack, it's a map of potential approach routes. He knows where a man could cross without being seen, where tires might roll quiet on gravel. His darkened old German shepherd named Rocco shifts on the porch. A low, uncertain growl escapes the animal's throat. Jack stiffens. Rocco doesn't growl at shadows, not without reason. He kills the light and lets his eyes adjust to the dark. The farmhouse sinks into quiet again. For a moment, nothing moves. Then there, just beyond the porch rail, a silhouette slides across the boards, too smooth for wind, too deliberate for chance. Someone is out there. Jack's pulse doesn't spike, it steadies. The ranger in him wakes like a lion stretching after sleep. His mind works angles without effort. Front porch entry is exposed. No one with experience would approach from that side unless they wanted him distracted. That means someone else could be circling. Rocco's growl rises, then cuts short with a sharp whine as the dog stiffens. Jack whispers low, "Easy, boy." His hand rests on the wall beside the doorway where an old rack holds tools, a hammer, a flashlight, but his real insurance isn't hanging there. It waits upstairs, cleaned and oiled, wrapped in cloth. His M24 sniper rifle, standard issue when he carried it downrange, bolt action, .308 caliber, reliable, deadly accurate out to 800 yards. He doesn't move yet, doesn't rush. That was the mistake rookies made, acting too fast. Instead, he listens. Boards groan again, softer this time, as if weight is being shifted carefully. Whoever's out there knows how to move quiet, but they don't know whose house they've chosen. Jack exhales slow, lips barely parting. In his mind, voices of old instructors echo. Patience wins fights. The enemy will always reveal himself if you give him the space to do it. Another sound, this one farther off. A car door closing, muffled. That means more than one. He counts. At least 2 outside. Maybe 3. Their pattern fits what Sarah described about the Briggs brothers: hit isolated homes late, move quick, strike fear. But tonight, they aren't walking into an old couple's farmhouse. Tonight, they're knocking on the door of a man who spent his best years studying how to track and kill in the dark. Jack finally moves. Slow, controlled, he pads toward the stairs, bare feet avoiding every board that squeaks. Rocco stays crouched low, eyes locked on the porch. Halfway up, Jack pauses, one hand on the rail, listening again. That's when he sees it. Through the back window, across the yard, a second shadow slips between the barn and the tree line. The moonlight catches a glint metal, maybe a crowbar, maybe a shotgun barrel. Doesn't matter which. What matters is the confirmation. Multiple intruders coordinated. Jack's jaw tightens. This isn't a test. This isn't some kids messing around. The Briggs crew is here, and they think they've found another helpless farm to bleed dry. A flicker of memory cuts through the faces of his team in the desert. The sound of radio static before an ambush. The pounding realization that you're outnumbered and outgunned, but still moving forward because men are counting on you. That same resolve grips him now. Not for a squad, not for a mission, but for something simpler. His home. His ground. He reaches the top of the stairs, moving toward the room where the rifle waits. The boards outside creak again, heavier now, as if someone is testing the door. His breath stays calm, almost too calm, like a predator sliding into position. Then it happens. A shape leans across the porch, blotting out the sliver of moonlight. A human silhouette, close enough to see the rise of shoulders as the figure shifts weight. A shadow moves across Jack Keller's back porch. The house settles into silence after the shadow crosses the porch. Jack Keller stands at the upstairs window, eyes fixed on the dark yard. Nothing moves now, only the sway of branches under the restless wind. He waits, still as stone, listening, but the night offers no more answers. Morning comes slow, pale light spreading across the fields. Jack walks the perimeter of his property with Rocco at his heel, the dew soaking his boots. He carries no weapon, only a thermos of coffee in his hand, but his eyes scan with the precision of a man who has lived too long in hostile territory. Every fence post, every broken stalk of corn, every indentation in the mud, he reads them like a map. The world thinks Jack's war ended years ago. His discharge papers said as much. Former Staff Sergeant, 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, 7 deployments, 2,100 operational hours behind the scope. The number was stamped into his service record, but numbers don't capture the truth. Numbers don't explain the dust storms choking Kandahar, the metallic sting of cordite after a firefight. The weight of his M24 pressed steady against his shoulder as he waited, and waited, and waited. He had patience the way other men had vices, and he'd needed it. In Afghanistan, patience meant survival. Hours belly down in the sand, cheek welded to the rifle stock, eyes locked through the scope, heartbeat slowed, to match the rhythm of the world. When the shot came, it came clean. A single crack, one man falls, others scatter. Mission secure. That was the life of a sniper. Invisible, necessary, forgotten. But patience has a cost. Jack carried it home like shrapnel in the soul. Nights were the hardest, too quiet, too easy to hear the voices of the dead. He'd tried VA therapy groups once, but sitting in a circle with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead wasn't his battlefield, and he couldn't force himself to speak. So he moved back to Fairview, into the farmhouse his parents left him, away from crowds and noise. Solitude became armor. The town labeled him broken. He didn't correct them. Better to be underestimated. Better for them not to know what's still lived in his hands and eyes. Rocco breaks his thoughts with a bark, nose pressed to the ground near the barn. Jack follows, crouching low. The mud is soft from last night's rain, and they're clear as print in wet cement. Our boot tracks. Not his. Too wide, too fresh. They cut across the yard toward the tree line, deliberate steps from someone who knew where they were going. Jack studies the spacing. Heavier than a teenager, not careful enough to be military, but confident. The kind of stride that belongs to a man who's done this before. He straightens slowly, jaw tight. This isn't random. Down in town, folks gossip at the diner. Mason and Tyler Briggs, everyone whispers. The Briggs brothers, sons of a drunk father and a mother who vanished years ago. Small-time punks turned predators. Breaking into houses, roughing up homeowners, moving stolen goods out of county. They're not soldiers, they're not disciplined, but they're dangerous, because they don't care. Violence doesn't keep them awake at night, tit feeds them. Mason, the older one, is the brain. Sharp enough to plan, mean enough to follow through. Tyler, 2 years younger, is reckless muscle, the kind who laughs when things get bloody. Together, they've turned fear into currency. Isolated farms make easy prey. By the time cops drive 20 miles of dirt roads, the brothers are long gone. And now their tracks are in Jack Keller's mud. He kneels, pressing 2 fingers in the imprint. The earth is still damp where the weight fell, which means whoever left it wasn't here long before dawn. His mind works the math like it used to overseas. The time, the distance, the angle of approach. They were watching his house, maybe testing defenses, maybe marking him as the next target. Jack stands, scanning the horizon. The fields look the same as always, quiet, endless, harmless, but the truth presses down on him. The war has followed him home. Inside, the farmhouse feels different now. Every creak of wood is suspect. Every curtain flutter is a signal. Jack moves through the rooms, eyes sweeping like a man clearing buildings in Kandahar. He runs a hand along the mantel where his medals sit in a box, unopened for years. Bronze Star, Ranger Tab, Sniper School graduation patch. Proof he once belonged to something larger than himself. Proof the Briggs brothers don't know who they're sizing up. He pauses at the back door, resting his palm against the frame. The mud print flashes in his mind. Fresh, deliberate. Whoever was there will be back. Rocco paces, nails clicking on the floorboards, uneasy. Jack kneels, rubbing the dog's neck. Easy, boy. We've seen worse. His voice is low, steady, the same tone he used with men before night raids. He isn't talking to the dog alone. He's reminding himself. Outside, clouds gather, darkening. The fields. Jack Keller, the quiet shadow of Fairview, knows the storm isn't weather. It's coming in human form. And he knows, with the cold certainty of a man who's lived too long in the crosshairs, that the Briggs brothers have no idea whose ground they've stepped on. The wind shifts, the barn door bangs once against its hinge. Jack steps forward, scanning the mud one last time, and there it is, just beyond the first track another, fainter, but fresh. 2 sets of boots, side by side. Not one man. 2. The hair on his arms rises. He exhales slow, forcing calm. The Briggs brothers aren't a rumor anymore. They're here, and they've chosen him. The Briggs brothers park their rusted Chevy pickup to fields over. Headlights cut, engine rumbling low until Mason kills the ignition. The night wraps around them like a shroud. Crickets buzz. A barn owl shrieks somewhere in the distance. Then silence falls hard. Tyler shifts in the passenger seat, restless, a toothpick rolling between his teeth. This, the place, he mutters, peering toward the faint outline of Jack Keller's farmhouse, its porch light glowing warm against the dark. Mason smirks, leaning back, confidence dripping from his tone. That's it, old Keller. Quiet, keeps to himself. Some washed-up vet. Nobody's gonna care when we tie him to a chair and clear the place out. He chuckles, shaking his head. Hell, he's probably too broken to even fight back. Tyler grins at that, but his laugh is nervous. Too sharp, hope. He's got more than canned beans and rusted tools. Ain't worth much if we can't stash the load. Mason's eyes stay fixed on the house, calculating we use it as a stash point. Get in, gag him, keep him alive just enough to not raise suspicion. Cops won't bother driving all the way out here anyway. We'll run what we lift through this dump until it's clean. Back at the farmhouse, Jack Keller doesn't know the details, but his instincts hum like a live wire. He's sitting by the window, lights dimmed, Rocco asleep at his feet, when the unease sets in again. That prickle at the base of his skull, he's learned never to ignore. The one that saved him in Ghazni when a rooftop glint gave away a sniper's nest. The one that warned him in Helmand before a dirt road swallowed half a convoy in fire, and steel. Something is off. Jack stands, moving slow, silent, every step deliberate. He starts a quiet circuit of the house, eyes scanning familiar corners, rehearsing defense in his head, like he's back in a briefing room. He checks the blind spots, with no direct sight lines from the windows. A sniper knows the importance of angles, of control. He calculates where a man could approach unseen, where the perimeter folds weakest. The M24 rifle waits upstairs, oiled and ready though it hasn't fired in years. He pulls it from its cloth wrapping, cycles the bolt with a soft metallic click. The feel is immediate, familiar, grounding. Stock pressed against shoulder, cheek weld aligning, the scope's cold circle narrowing the world. Memories rush, red sunsets in foreign deserts. Whispered commands over radio static, the stillness before a kill shot. He props the rifle near the eastern window where the field stretches wide. A perfect lane for anyone bold or stupid enough to approach. He lays out his backup, an old Beretta M9, standard sidearm from his army days. The action is smooth, magazine full, safety flicked with muscle memory that never left. The house itself becomes part of his defense. Jack locks doors, but leaves certain windows cracked. A tactical choice. A man expecting everything shut tight will be sloppy. Better to give them something to focus on. He stages noise traps, an empty bottle left by the hallway door, a creaky board unweighted until he knows it'll matter. Every step is preparation.com and calculated. Like rehearsing a mission brief in his head. Rocco stirs, ears twitching, and Jack crouches, resting a hand on the dog's back. Not yet, he whispers. His voice is level, steady, the way it was on the radio years ago when men waited for his call. Out in the pickup, Mason watches through binoculars, chewing gum slow. Lights just went dim. Old man's probably turning in. Easy pickings. Tyler leans forward. You sure about this? Something about that place feels, I don't know, off. Mason snaps, irritation sharp. It's a farmhouse. Ty, not Kandahar. Guy's a washed-up hermit. Stop spooking yourself. The irony would make Jack laugh if he could hear it. Kandahar. They have no idea. Inside, Jack runs through contingencies in his mind. Single entry breach. He'll funnel them. Multiple entry. He'll flank. Armed, likely, but sloppy criminals with weapons don't equal trained operators. What matters is patience. Always patience. He pulls a small flashlight from the drawer, tapes a strip of red film over the lens. Low light discipline. Won't blind his eyes. Won't give away position. Little tricks picked up across continents, now repurposed for his own living room. The clock ticks past 11. The farmhouse hums with electricity, fridge motor rattling in the background, the steady thrum of a man's quiet life. Jack listens, chest still, the waiting heavy. Then, sudden, the world snaps black. Every bulb dies in unison. The fridge motor winds down into silence. The porch light cuts out, the glow vanishing like a snuffed candle. Even the digital clock on the microwave disappears. Red digits gone. Rocco growls low, hackles rising. The house breathes in stillness. No hum, no light. Just darkness pressing against every wall. Outside, Mason and Tyler exchange a glance. Mason grins, eyes glinting, powers down. Showtime. Inside, Jack doesn't move, doesn't panic. He stands in the dark, pulse steady, rifle within reach. The Briggs brothers think they've turned off the lights. What they don't know is they've just given him back the world. He knows best. The battlefield always begins in silence. The blackout doesn't rattle Jack Keller. It steadies him. The house exhales into silence, and he inhales, slow and controlled. Years of training slide back into place like a magazine locking home. He moves first to kill the noise. The dog bowls on the kitchen floor. He lifts them, sets them onto the counter, the loose screen by the window. He presses it tight until the latch holds. Every sound he eliminates is one less weapon the enemy can use against him. Light discipline follows. He slips a strip of red film across his flashlight, checks the beam once, then kills it. His pupils adjust, widening, letting the house reveal its contours. Shadows sharpen, corners deepen. In this kind of darkness, most men are blind. But Jack feels at home. It's the same kind of dark where he once lay belly down in the dirt outside condos waiting on a target that never came. Patience wins wars. He begins to clear the interior. His Beretta M9 rests firm in his grip, muzzle angled low but ready. He moves room to room like it's second nature because it is. He pies every corner, slicing angles, leaning slow, exposing himself inch by inch instead of rushing blind. The term comes back to him. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. He whispers it under his breath. Rocco pads behind him, nails clicking once before Jack raises a hand. The dog halts on command, trained by instinct, not words. The living room checks clear. He angles down the hallway, back tight to the wall. Each doorway becomes a decision point. Left shoulder forward, muzzle rising, eye cutting the slice. Bathroom, clear. Spare bedroom, clear. Every sound he makes is measured, the faint grind of his boots, the soft fabric of his shirt brushing the wall. No wasted motion, no panic. Just processed up. But inside, under the calm, a war wages. The rules he swore to himself after discharge echo in his skull. No more blood on home soil. He'd promised that the last bullet he fired would stay overseas. His hands trembled just enough for him to feel it. He steadies them, breaths slow, forcing muscle memory to bury the doubt. He doesn't want this fight, but he knows it's coming. His mind flashes back, uninvited Bagram Airfield, 2008. Room packed with Rangers, fluorescent lights buzzing, ACO barking, rules of engagement over the hiss of a projector. Do not fire unless hostile intent is confirmed. Do not engage if collateral risk exceeds acceptable limits. Jack remembers nodding, understanding the weight of restraint. Tonight, those rules return. He doesn't want to fire unless there's no choice, but if it comes to it, he'll do what has to be done. A thump jolts him from thought. Back porch, weight against the boards. Then silence again, like the intruder is listening as hard as Jack is. His breathing slows. He crouches by the wall, pistol raised, finger resting against the trigger guard, but not inside. Control, always control. The farmhouse feels alive now, pulsing with tension. The old wood groans under pressure, changes. The air thick with anticipation. Rocco growls low in his throat, but Jack signals him quiet with a hand. He can almost hear the men outside breathing, even if it's just in his head. Minutes drag. Then it comes. A sharp crystalline crack cuts through the silence, the sound of glass shattering. Back door, Jack's body reacts before thought catches. Up. He pivots. Pistol raised, moving low and fast down the hallway toward the kitchen. Every step is muscle memory from countless kill houses cleared during training. From real rooms stormed in Afghanistan, where hesitation meant death. The sound of boots follows the crunch of shards underfoot. Someone is inside. Jack presses his back to the wall by the kitchen entry, heart pounding but hand steady. His eyes narrow, mind calculating distance, angles, timing. This is no longer preparation, this is contact. The Briggs brothers are in his house, and Jack Keller, whether he wants it or not, is back in the fight. The intruders move like amateurs, clumsy shadows stomping through a house that doesn't belong to them. Jack knows it instantly, the way their flashlights jitter too high, too low, beams stabbing across walls instead of cutting deliberate slices. They whisper, but their voices carry. They don't know sound travels twice as far in silence. Jack stays still, pressed against the wall in the narrow corridor, pistol low, body blending with the dark. He's not breathing heavy, not shifting weight. Stillness is survival. He counts their steps, hears the stagger in rhythm. 2 men, maybe 3. The leader Mason from the voice barks low. Check the rooms. Old man won't fight back. Bag him fast. Jack almost smirks. Underestimation is the oldest mistake in the book. He slides backward into the laundry alcove, body tight, motion silent. Rocco stays low by his heel, sensing his handler's command without a sound. The burglars sweep past, unaware they've walked within 10 feet of a man who once ghosted Taliban fighters in mountain passes so dark you couldn't see your own rifle. But patience isn't enough. Patience must be armed with preparation. Jack's mind clicks through old training modules, fieldcraft, deception, environmental control. He moves through the farmhouse, slow as smoke, leaving behind small gifts, tactical tells disguised as clutter. A ceramic mug, placed precariously on the edge of the kitchen counter. A broom angled against the hallway wall where a careless bump will clatter it down. 2 untrained eyes, just mess. 2 jack, noise traps. Tripwires made of sound. He advances deeper into the house, every step deliberate. He uses reflections now, just like in combat. The glass face of a family picture frame angled toward the back door. The sheen of the microwave door catching the faint glimmer of a flashlight beam. Even the chrome on the stove handle gives him angles, letting him see movement without revealing himself. It's not paranoia, it's mirrors and light. The poor man's reconnaissance in his head. He hears his old team sergeant's voice. Control the battle space. Make them chase ghosts. That's exactly what he does. Every creak of the floorboard is a controlled choice. Every second he stays unseen erodes their confidence, chips away at their nerves. Jack can feel it, fear spreading in their ranks like frostbite. A faint crash from the living room. One of the noise traps. Mason curses under his breath. Eyes up. He's here somewhere. The burglars sweep wide, lights jittering, weapons raised. They've taken the bait. Jack slows his breathing to nothing, blending into the pantry doorway. One of them drifts closer, boots dragging, beam trembling across the cabinets. Jack tracks the sound more than the sight, the crunch of glass shifting underfoot, the brush of fabric against wood. Then it happens. The intruder steps into the hallway, flashlight sweeping across the pantry door. He's so close, Jack can smell him, cheap cologne, sweat, the metallic temps of adrenaline. The man's boot lands inches from Jack's own. Rocco tenses, a silent coil ready to spring, but Jack steadies him with a palm pressed low. The burglar freezes, scanning left, then right. The flashlight beam cuts over Jack's shoulder but doesn't land. For one razored second, it feels impossible that he hasn't been spotted. The man exhales, muttering, places a damn maze, and takes a half step forward. That's when Jack moves. Not forward, not into the light, but backward, around, silent as a wraith. Years of stalking targets through mud, rain, and desert sand come alive in his muscles. He slips behind the man, so close he can see the tendons in his neck tighten as he swallows. Jack's hand lowers, sliding a combat knife from its sheath at his hip. The steel glints once in the faint ambient glow. His grip is sure, his movements precise. In that instant, Jack Keller isn't a farmer, or a hermit, or a man haunted by promises he swore to keep. He's what he was always trained to be. A ghost, and the burglar, he has no idea death just stepped up behind him. The knife hovers inches from the man's throat. Jack can hear Mason calling from the other room. Find him, damn it. He's just one old man. But this old man has become the hunter. The chapter closes with the knife's edge trembling in the dark. The burglar one heartbeat away from never leaving the house. The farmhouse breathes silence, broken only by the faint shuffle of boots on hardwood. Jack waits in the darkness, every muscle coiled, every sense sharpened. The burglar nearest to him doesn't even realize death is standing an arm's length away. Jack moves when the man exhales. A subtle slip of timing only years of training can teach. His arm snakes around the intruder's throat, the blade of his forearm cutting off airflow before a sound can escape. The man thrashes, his elbows jerking, but Jack shifts weight, pinning him against the wall. His grip is firm but enough to incapacitate, not kill. Old rules burn in his mind. Never again on American soil. Never again the final shot. He adjusts pressure, sending the intruder into unconsciousness, the body sagging heavy in his arms. Slowly, silently, Jack lowers him to the ground. Not a thud, not a scrape. The house remains undisturbed, but Mason feels it. He's no professional, but instinct tells him something's wrong. Jack hears the change in his tone, the tightening of orders. Spread out, check corners. Somebody's screwing with us. That one word somebody means Mason knows. This isn't an old man fumbling in panic. This is method. This is training. Jack drags the limp intruder into the shadows, tucks him behind the laundry door, and retrieves his own weapon. Not the pistol, not the knife. Tonight calls for patience. Tonight calls for the calm, glass edge of a sniper's discipline. He eases the worn case from the corner, the one he swore he'd never open again. The hinges groan faintly. Inside rests the M24, olive drab, glass optics gleaming faint under the moonlight bleeding through the window. His hands move automatically, bolt open, chamber checked, magazine seated. Every motion is a ritual drilled into muscle memory from years spent on ridgelines and overwatch positions. The rifle feels cold and alive, as if waiting for him all. This time his breathing evens, heart rate slows. The chaos of intruders moving through his home fades until there's only the rhythm of sight alignment. Trigger, squeeze, and consequence. Through the scope, the farmhouse transforms. Distances collapse, details sharpen. Jack sweeps, scanning sectors like he's back in Afghanistan, watching insurgents cross dusty courtyards. He finds Mason near the center room, flashlight jerking, pistol raised. Mason is trying to project control, but Jack can see the tension in his shoulders, the twitch in his jaw. He's scared, though he doesn't know how much yet. Jack exhales, a long, steady breath. Crosshairs settle. The reticle drifts with the rise and fall of his lungs. He centers mass not to fire, not yet, but to feel the weight of decision. He doesn't need to pull the trigger. The power is in knowing he could. That sniper.com, that eerie stillness before a storm, settles over him. His mind flashes back to the oath he swore to himself. No more killing, not here, not home. But Mason doesn't know that. The intruders keep moving, bumping into Jack's noise traps. Muttering in frustration, Mason barks again, louder, trying to cover the edge in his voice. Whoever you rude just made a mistake. Jack almost smiles. The only mistake tonight was stepping into his house. The scope stays steady, the M24 an extension of his will. The crosshairs lock on Mason's chest, then rise deliberately to his head. Jack adjusts grip, finger resting outside the trigger guard. The silence is crushing now, like the house itself is holding its breath. And then he shifts position, sliding deeper into the corner, scope unwavering. Mason freezes, as if some primal instinct tells him he's being watched. He turns slowly, flashlight beams slicing through dust motes. Through the scope, Jack watches every detail. The beads of sweat, the flicker of panic, the illusion of control. Peeling away, Jack doesn't blink, doesn't breathe. The crosshairs hold Mason dead center. One squeeze, and it's over. The chapter closes there. Frozen on the image, the ghost of a sniper reborn, rifle steady, the first shot hanging unspoken in the still night. Mason changes rhythm. The house goes quiet for the first time in minutes, and the silence feels heavier than the noise. He stops barking orders, stops sweeping rooms with sloppy movements. He slows down. Jack notices the shift immediately. The leader is adapting. Mason isn't trying to scare him out anymore. He's stalking now. It's a predator's silence, but it's not the kind Jack grew up with in combat. Mason's quiet is forced, rehearsed. Jack's is natural, earned. From the far hall. Jack, here's a faint scrape of boots against wood. Mason's deliberately rolling weight across the planks, trying not to creak them. Clever, but not clever enough. Jack steadies his breathing, recalling doctrine drilled into him until it lived in his bones. One shot, one kill. Patience wins wars. A sniper never chases his prey. He waits. He lets the battlefield come to him. Tonight, the battlefield is his home. Every corner memorized. Every reflection tested. Tyler, Mason's right-hand man, breaks formation. Jack hears it, the careless inhale, the shallow shift of fabric near the kitchen. Tyler's about to spring an ambush, thinking he's clever enough to catch Jack from the flank. Jack feels the shift in air pressure more than he sees it. He knows the angle, the cover, the probable line of fire. Instead of stepping into Tyler's kill box, Jack palms a flashlight. With a flick, he throws it down the hallway. The beam bounces across the floorboards, striking a broken mirror propped against the wall. In that instant, Tyler takes the bait, firing at the false reflection. The blast cracks the silence like a whip. Jack uses the noise as cover, squeezing off a single controlled shot. He doesn't aim for Tyler's chest. He snaps one round into the doorframe inches from Tyler's ear. The ricochet shrieks, splinters flying. Tyler yells, disoriented, stumbling back. It's a psychological kill, not a physical one. Tyler now knows someone inside is orchestrating the fight with surgical precision. Jack moves again, gliding into the shadows before Mason can triangulate the shot. He stays low, rifle angled, scanning mirrors and reflective surfaces like he's back on Overwatch. He doesn't chase Tyler. He doesn't need to. Tyler will crumble under his own panic soon enough. Mason pauses in the main hall. The leader's breathing steadies, but there's a hesitation now. Jack tracks him silently, rifle sights brushing over him. Mason steps past the mantel, and then he stops dead. His flashlight beam falls across a polished wood case mounted on the wall inside Jack's military pillbox. The metals catch the light. A bronze star, a purple heart, the folded triangle of a flag presented at too many funerals. Mason leans closer, disbelief flickering in his face. He whispers, almost to himself, "Oh hell." The realization lands like a hammer. This wasn't just some homeowner. This wasn't some retired nobody. This was a sniper who'd written history in places Mason couldn't even spell. The quiet veteran they thought would fold had been forged in battles Mason only saw on television. Jack watches through the crosshairs. Every detail illuminated the widening eyes, the tremor in Mason's jaw, the sweat dripping down his neck. The predator finally understands he's become the prey. But the moment of recognition comes too late. The rifle stays steady, Jack unmoving in his calm bubble of focus. His finger slides featherlight against the trigger guard. The chapter ends with Mason frozen before the shadow box, staring at the life story of the man he chose to hunt, comprehension dawning far too late. The house has gone black, the kind of darkness that eats the air, and the burglars hate it. Jack listens to their boots scrape and their voices tighten. Darkness doesn't bother him, it's an old friend. He moves with the patience of a sniper, each step measured, each breath controlled. While they stumble, he orchestrates the battlefield. He picks a lamp across the hall, raises the M24, and squeezes. Glass shatters, sparks, spit, and the corridor plunges into deeper shadow. Confusion follows. Mason swears under his breath. The younger men argue about whether they saw movement. Jack shifts position silently, dragging the sound of his boots across a different floorboard. It's deliberate masking. He lets one intruder think he's to the left, then another that he's above. Their muzzles swing wildly, barrels chasing ghosts. One of them, nerves fraying, fires a shot into the wall. The sound ricochets through the house, masking Jack's own controlled movement as he slides down the stairwell, every muscle relaxed. Sniper doctrine never changes. Own the shadows, control the noise, let the enemy dig their own grave. He crouches near the broken frame of the living room window. The night air presses cold against his cheek. His finger rests near the trigger, but he doesn't fire yet. He remembers Afghanistan, a long night on Overwatch when he and his spotter counted every breath waiting for a convoy that never came. He remembers how patience saved his life more than speed ever did. Jack whispers to himself, words not meant for anyone but the ghosts who follow him. Not tonight. Evil doesn't get to win here. Not in my house. Not on my soil. His throat tightens as he sees flashes of men he served with, faces lit in firelight, some alive, some buried with folded flags. His jaw hardens. He won't let these punks turn his home into another battlefield, where good men's names are forgotten. He chambers another round, lifts the rifle, and takes out the next lamp. Darkness thickens, total now, and the burglars' frustration mounts. Their voices spike, Mason snapping, spread out, flush him, but spread out means separation. Separation means isolation, and isolation is how snipers win. Jack positions himself behind the kitchen island. Lowering his profile, he taps his knife against a metal pot, the sound sharp and misleading. One of the men barrels toward it, his nerve shot, only to catch Jack's silhouette darting the opposite way. Another mistake. Another opening. Jack doesn't even need to fire, he just lets the enemy unravel themselves piece by piece. He controls the environment, he controls their fear. Every sound, every shadow, bends to him. It's psychological warfare in its purest form. The same game he played in deserts and mountains, only now it's in drywall and hardwood. But then something shifts. A sound Jack doesn't expect. The faint creak of the porch door opening softer, then the burglar's heavy steps. He freezes, rifle raised. Not one of them. Too light, too hesitant. And then he knows Sarah, his neighbor, the one who always brought his mail to the door when he forgot. She must have seen the blackout, thought to check. Wrong night, wrong time. Mason hears it too. His head snaps, eyes narrowing in the dark. A grin spreads across his face, ugly and triumphant. Jack's blood runs cold as Mason moves faster than the others, slipping toward the porch. Jack adjusts his scope, heart pounding now, not for himself, but for her. He whispers under his breath, a curse, a plea, a soldier's prayer. He lines up the shot, but Mason isn't where he needs him to be. He's too close to her. Jack shifts left, right, searching for an angle. Every second stretched to eternity. Then Mason's hand clamps onto Sarah's wrist. She gasps, a small, terrified sound in the silence. Mason drags her forward into the shadows, pressing her against him like a shield. Jack exhales slowly, crosshairs hovering. His patience, his control, his entire doctrine is tested in this one moment. Because Mason just turned the battlefield into something more dangerous than combat, he turned it into a hostage standoff. And that's where the scene breaks. Sarah caught in Mason's grip, Jack's scope centered, but no clean shot. The warp inside the house just became personal in a way Jack never wanted. And Mason knows it. The living room is quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that hums with danger. Sarah's breath comes in short bursts, ragged and terrified. Mason's arm locked around her throat, the muzzle of his pistol pressed hard against her temple. Jack takes it all in from the shadows of the hallway, rifle steady in his hands, heart hammering. Every instinct tells him to hold, to wait for a cleaner shot. But this isn't Afghanistan. This isn't some foreign ridgeline where he can let time stretch. This is his home, his neighbor, and the man holding her is seconds away. From pulling the trigger, Mason's voice cuts through the air, sharp, cruel, mocking. Come on out, soldier boy, or I decorate these walls with her brains. Sarah whimpers. Just once, a sound Jack will never forget. His jaw tightens. His doctrine has always been clear, no civilian engagement on U.S. soil, but that rule is ash now, burning away under the weight of necessity. Tonight, he breaks it. He slides one boot an inch forward, breath shallow, rifle hugged tight against his shoulder. The hallway is dark, lit only by the faint glow of moonlight bleeding through the shattered window panes. He lowers his body, reducing profile, just as he would on Overwatch. Every step is measured, every shift of weight intentional. His mind isn't racing, it's calculating. Angles, distance, holdover for low light. A shot past Sarah's ear. He stops just shy of the corner, kneeling, and rests the rifle against the doorframe. He exhales, letting the world shrink into scope view. Sarah's face fills part of the picture, eyes wide, tears glistening. Mason's head juts just behind hers, shielded by her body. A coward's move, a tactical nightmare. But Jack doesn't see a wall, he sees a window. Less than 2 inches of exposed target, enough. Mason shifts, his grip tightening on Sarah. You hear me, hero? This is on you. One more step and Jack squeezes the trigger. The rifle cracks, deafening in the closed space. Muzzle flash lights the room like a camera flash. The round cuts through the air with surgical precision, past Sarah's ear close. Enough two-part strands of her hair. It finds Mason's face, ripping across his cheekbone, spinning his head violently sideways. He roars, a guttural animal sound, and the pistol clatters against the floor. Sarah drops to her knees, hands over her ears, shock flooding her system. Jack is already moving, ejecting the spent casing, chambering another round. His body flows with practiced motion combat muscle memory, but Mason isn't down. Blood pours from his face, teeth bared in rage, eyes burning with a mix of pain and hate. He staggers back, hand fumbling for a blade strapped to his belt. The man should be finished, but adrenaline and fury drive him forward. Jack's pulse doesn't spike, it slows. He rises from the hallway, stepping into the open, rifle still locked on target. Sarah scrambles away, crawling behind the overturned coffee table, out of the line of fire. For Jack, the world narrows again, just him and Mason, soldier and target, hunter and wounded animal. Mason spits blood, laughing through broken teeth. That all you got, sniper? You'll need more than one shot. His voice is thick, gurgling, but his hands are steady enough as he raises the knife. Jack centers the reticle on Mason's chest, finger tightening against the trigger. For an instant, the house is frozen in silence, time stretched thin as wire. Sarah holds her breath. Mason grins through the blood, and Jack knows this is it. He fires. The shot slams Mason back, crashing him against the wall. The knife drops, skittering across the hardwood. Smoke curls from the barrel of Jack's rifle, the echo of the gunshot still rolling through the house like thunder, and then stillness. Sarah sobs quietly behind the table, not daring to lift her head. Jack keeps his sights on Mason, waiting for the chest to stop moving, waiting for final confirmation. But Mason's hand twitches. His chest rises shallow, broken but not beaten. His eyes flicker open, glinting with something feral. Jack narrows, his gaze, adjusting his stance. He doesn't lower the rifle. Not yet, because he knows the worst kind of enemy isn't the one lying dead on the floor. It's the one who refuses to stay down. And in the silence that follows, Mason's ragged laugh cuts through the air. Low, guttural, defiant. The battle isn't over. Not yet. The air is thick with gunpowder and sweat. The metallic temps stinging Jack's nostrils as Mason staggers forward. One side of his face plastered with blood, his eyes wild with desperation. He's 2 shots too late, but it doesn't matter, he's coming anyway. Knife swinging in a sloppy arc, teeth bared in a snarl that would chill a lesser man to the bone. Jack's heart hammers, chest tight, yet every fiber of his ranger training snaps into focus. He's faced enemies like this before, but never this close. Never in his own living room. Mason lunges, and Jack sidesteps, the knife grazing his shoulder. Heat flares from the shallow cut, and he tastes copper on his tongue. Instinctively, Jack pivots, grabbing Mason's wrist, twisting with joint lock precision, honed over years of combative. Mason grunts, yanks free, but Jack's not letting up. Every move is a calculation. Leverage, weight distribution, timing. He lands a short, sharp elbow to the ribs, forcing Mason back against the wall, knocking the wind out of him. Not today, Jack murmurs, voice low, almost a growl, as he pivots, sweeping Mason's legs with a controlled leg hook, sending him crashing to the floor. Dust rises from the carpet, motes floating in the moonlight that streams through the broken blinds. Mason roars, scrambling, eyes burning with rage, lashing out with fists. Jack blocks, redirects, using his own momentum against him. He feels the satisfying crack of knuckles meeting muscle, hears the grunt of exertion, the scrape of Mason's boots against the hardwood. Mason's desperation is palpable, every swing wilder, every step more reckless. Jack's movements are precise, efficient, lethal in their restraint. His ranger combatives training, once abstract drills in distant training compounds, now translates perfectly to this chaotic dance of survival. A calculated knee to Mason's abdomen folds him over, and Jack follows immediately, wrapping an arm around his throat, pressing him down with controlled force. Mason thrashes, but Jack's grip is immovable, anchored by years of tactical conditioning. "You picked the wrong house," Jack whispers, the words low, bitter, almost intimate. Mason's eyes widen in shock, a flicker of fear, finally recognition that the predator he underestimated is no ordinary man. The knife slides from Mason's hand, skittering across the floor, a metallic punctuation mark to the brutal contest. Sweat and blood mingle on Jack's brow as he keeps Mason pinned, listening to the ragged intake of breath from the man who dared threaten innocent life. Jack's muscles burn, fatigue creeping into every fiber, but adrenaline keeps him rooted, unwavering. The house is eerily silent now, broken only by the distant, keening wail of police sirens approaching through the night. They're coming, but Jack doesn't release Mason just yet. He keeps the rifle across his knees, scope angled to cover any sudden movement. Sarah peeks from behind the overturned coffee table, trembling but safe, eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. Mason struggles, weak but dangerous, his breathing shallow and ragged. Every inch of his body screams pain, yet defiance drives him still. Jack studies him, calculating how many seconds before he finds another weapon, another edge. The man is a storm reduced to a broken branch, but storms have a nasty habit of snapping back unexpectedly. Jack knows better than to assume victory is permanent until the threat is fully neutralized. The living room is a battlefield of small debris, overturned chairs, shards of broken picture frames, bullet holes punctuating the walls like scars. Moonlight slices through the chaos, illuminating Jack's face, glinting off his rifle. The air vibrates with tension, charged and heavy, every heartbeat amplified, every breath a countdown. Jack can feel Mason's heat beneath him, the thrum of fury, the erratic pulse, a dangerous rhythm he can sense even through fatigue. Jack leans slightly, whispering to Sarah, "Stay down, stay quiet." Her nod is barely perceptible, but it's enough. He tightens his grip on Mason, guiding him with controlled pressure to the floor, immobilizing him without needless brutality. Mason thrashes weakly, eyes darting around, seeking escape, seeking advantage, finding none. Jack's mind races with contingencies: police entry, medical response, backup tactics, but each thought is measured, disciplined. He doesn't panic. He cannot dot another wave of movement. Mason, attempting a sudden roll, forces Jack to shift. His weight, pressing down, leveraging body mechanics to keep him grounded. Pain radiates from Jack's shoulder, where earlier contact had nicked the skin, but he ignores it. Adrenaline masks most of the sensation. He thinks of his brothers in arms, of every fight survived, every enemy subdued with skill and precision. This is the culmination of years, every scar and training session converging in this room. In this moment, a distant thrum grows louder, the wail of approaching sirens, a chorus of imminent justice. Jack's ears pick up the faint crunch of tires over gravel, flashlights slicing the darkness outside the shattered windows. Mason's eyes flick toward the noise, and for the first time, he realizes he is completely alone, completely outmatched. Jack doesn't gloat. He only watches, rifle steady, maintaining the perfect balance between restraint and readiness. Mason gasps, spitting blood onto the floor, muttering curses through clenched teeth. His attempts to rise falter. The combination of pain, exhaustion, and Jack's unrelenting control keeps him pinned. Jack allows himself a small, almost imperceptible nod of satisfaction. Not triumph, not relief, just acknowledgement of the job done, for now. And then Jack hears it. A faint click of a door, a shuffle in the hallway beyond. He freezes, senses razor-sharp, police, or another threat. He can't tell yet. His grip on Mason tightens reflexively, rifle angled for immediate response. Sweat streaks down his face, mixing with blood from earlier, dribbling into his eyes. Vision blurs slightly, heart pounding, body trembling from the exertion. Yet his mind remains razor-focused. Jack glances down at Mason, pinned and vulnerable, then toward the door. The sirens grow closer, urgent now, a rising tide against the night. His muscles ache, lungs burn, but he does not release the man, not until he knows the immediate threat is truly neutralized. Every second feels stretched, elongated by the tension, by the knowledge that any misstep could undo everything. Sarah finally moves, inching closer behind Jack, eyes wide but unafraid now. He gives her a small reassuring nod, but does not take his focus off Mason. The wretched man below him glares up with defiance, still lingering in his bloodied eyes. Yet he cannot move, cannot strike, cannot threaten. The predator reduced to prey. Outside, the wail of sirens crescendos, punctuated by the thrum of approaching engines and the murmur of radios. Jack's knuckles whiten on Mason's arm as he braces for the next phase of the night. The fight is over, yes, but the story isn't finished. And in that charged silence, as Jack sits, rifle across his knees, Mason pinned beneath him, one question hangs in the air, heavy and unresolved. How far is Jack willing to go to keep the darkness at bay, even when it comes to those closest to him? The morning light filters through the broken blinds, slicing across the living room like razor-edged beams. The air is thick with smoke, dust, and the faint metallic temps of blood. Jack sits on the floor, rifle across his knees, chest heaving from exertion. One burglar lies sprawled, incapacitated but alive, groaning with every shallow breath. The other is still, silent, a pool of crimson spreading beneath him. The weight of what just happened presses down on Jack's shoulders, but there's no room for regrets, only clarity, cold and unyielding. The distant wail of sirens grows louder, tires crunching over gravel, radio chatter crackling through squad frequencies. Jack hears the cadence of approaching officers, disciplined and precise. The authority of law finally arriving at the scene he's already secured. He shifts, checking Mason and the other intruder once more. Everything is under control. Everything is contained. Sweat drips into his eyes, stinging, as he blinks through the haze, every muscle trembling with fatigue yet taut with readiness. A knock at the front door precedes the sheriff's cautious entrance. Sheriff Reynolds, seasoned and wary, steps into the room, flashlight in one hand, service weapon holstered but ready. His eyes sweep the scene, scanning the subdued burglar, the lifeless one, and finally resting on Jack. For a moment, silence reigns, a weighty, tense pause where judgment and respect hang in balance. "Jack," Reynolds says finally, voice low but steady, carrying both relief and awe. "I didn't think you had it in you." That was, he swallows, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. That was skill and restraint, both. Jack only nods, voice rough from shouting, from holding, from commanding every ounce of control. He doesn't need the praise, but he feels it anyway. A rare acknowledgement from someone who understands what it takes to survive in the chaos others never see. Outside, the first blush of dawn tints the sky in streaks of orange and violet. The neighbors emerge cautiously. Drawn by the commotion, whispers ripple through the quiet streets, eyes wide with a mix of fear and disbelief. They see him not as a broken recluse, not as the man who lived on the edge of rumor, but as a protector, quiet, unseen, lethal if necessary, but tempered with humanity. The community finally understands what Jack has always known. Sometimes the strongest shield is one that never boasts, one that never seeks recognition. Jack rises slowly, muscles aching, rifle still in hand as he surveys the room. Bullet holes punctuate the walls like scars, furniture overturned, remnants of the struggle scattered across the floor. Each mark tells a story: decision, action, consequence. He inhales deeply, tasting dust, sweat, and the faint copper of blood, grounding himself. Every sense is alive, attuned to the aftermath. But the danger has passed for now. Clear, Jack mutters, more to himself than anyone else. He kneels beside Mason, checking pulse, airway, and injuries. Standard first aid protocols embedded deep into his muscle memory guide him: tourniquet where necessary, controlled pressure, constant assessment. Mason groans, a low, reluctant acknowledgement of his defeat, the fire in his eyes dimming but not fully extinguished. Jack allows a small measure of pity, only enough to recognize the man as human before restraining him for police custody. The sheriff steps closer, flashlight sweeping over the room, illuminating the careful choreography of violence and discipline. "You kept your head," Reynolds says again, quieter this time, almost reverent. "Could have gone bad, real bad. You held it together when most would have panicked. That's impressive." Jack doesn't reply, only gestures toward the injured burglar. The sheriff nods, signaling his deputies to take over. Police radios chatter instructions, officers moving with precision, securing evidence, recording the scene. Jack steps outside, inhaling the crisp morning air. Sunlight warms his back, cutting through the chill of night's terror. He looks across his fields, the rows of crops shimmering with dew, the old barn standing sentinel in the distance. Everything is calm, deceptively serene after hours of chaos. Yet in the quiet, Jack senses the weight of vigilance. Evil has a way of returning, finding cracks where heroes rest. His pulse slows, but never stops. He walks to the edge of the field, eyes scanning the horizon, mind replaying the previous night's events. Every movement, every calculation, every choice, the lines of a battle etched into memory. He allows himself a moment of peace, brief as it is, knowing tomorrow could demand the same intensity. Yet for now, he stands as a silent guardian, a man who has seen darkness and chosen to meet it head-on. The sheriff approaches, resting a hand briefly on Jack's shoulder. "The town owes you more than thanks," he says. "You showed them what it means to fight with honor, not just strength." Jack nods, not seeking validation, only acknowledging the shared understanding. Duty, action, triad of his life distilled into a single night's outcome. Sarah steps from the crowd, cautious but drawn to him, a quiet smile breaking across her face. Relief and pride shimmer in her eyes. She doesn't speak. Words are unnecessary. Jack gives her a nod, a silent promise that safety endures, at least for now. The distant wail of sirens fades as the police vehicles disperse, leaving the field bathed in morning light, golden and forgiving. Jack's hands grip the rifle loosely, muscles finally relaxing as adrenaline ebbs. The events of the night settle into memory, catalogued, analyzed, stored for the next inevitable confrontation. Yet even in this moment of calm, a question lingers, unspoken. How many more times will he be called upon, and will the next threat be one he can face alone? The wind stirs through the trees, carrying the scent of earth and rain, whispering promises of trials yet to come. Jack gazes across the horizon, eyes sharp, mind alert, heart steady, prepared to answer when the darkness inevitably knocks again. For now, the dawn is his companion, the fields his witness, and the knowledge that justice, though hard one has, prevailed until the next time evil tests the quiet strength of a man who refuses to yield.